Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about a Linux project or topics about something in the Linux and open source world. It could be a Linux distribution, desktop environment, application. We also discuss news and take topics from anywhere around the world for an enjoyable chat. That's the goal, an enjoyable chat. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux, fitness, and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the Open SUSE project. And with me today, I have Terry. Welcome. First time here, I think. First time caller. Long time listener, I guess, maybe. Sravan, Jinda, Scrapjaw, Colin, Vince, Edigan. How do you say that? Welcome, Ben, and of course, Mark is here. Thank you so much for being here. I super appreciate you all joining me 30 minutes later than our normal start time due to reasons. So on the docket for today, we're going to talk about our desktop exploration of NsCDE. Check what's on the menu for next week. Do a news flight, a community free pour, and a last call. Actually, I'm not sure that there's a community free pour, so maybe I shouldn't have said that. But first, what have you been doing in Linux? Sravan, you've got some pretty exciting stuff going on with Docker. I would love to hear about it, and I think so would everybody else.
Has anyone here tried Docker before?
Yes.
No. Yes, I have. I actually use it every day, technically, as I run a TrueNAS scale server.
Oh, nice.
So, my motivation of using Docker is slightly different. So, I want to use GitHub Actions to do some automation on our backend for building ARM images and also packages too. So, already we have started doing some of that on the x86 64 side. So I wanted to do similar stuff in ARM. So again, the way GitHub Actions work is it opens a Ubuntu VM, and then you can install a Docker container on it, and then run whatever you want in the Docker container. So it's very simple. So again, for building EndeavourOS ARM images, you need a EndeavourOS ARM container, and no one made it. So I wanted to make like a Docker container in which I can build an image or build packages. So I found an existing work by Lopsided98. So he has an Arch Linux Docker project, which is really good. They build Docker images for several of Arch architectures. So they build the main Arch, the x86-64, ARM v8, ARM v7, that is 32-bit ARM. I think they build some older ARM architectures too. So they support a wide range of Arch Linux architectures, and they regularly update the image, I think daily. They also use some GitHub Actions or something to create new images every day. So I use that as a base. And then I learned how to make a Docker file. So you can use from in a Docker file to pull that existing image, and then you can make modifications on it using in the Docker file using several commands like run, copy, etc. And then I use that to make a EndeavourOS ARM Docker image, which can be run on an x86 system. And I'm hoping to use it in the future to do some automation stuff. So yeah, and also to actually use it, it has to be on a Docker hub. So I created a Docker hub account, created a repo for this, learned how to build the image using Docker build, and give it a tag. And then we use git push, we can say Docker push to push this image onto Docker hub. So then anyone else can use it.
So are you actively using it now? Is it in a state? No, so it's still in a work in progress state?
No, it's working, but I'm not using it in GitHub Actions yet.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm, again, working on something else. In the meanwhile, so I'll get back to the automation stuff, but at least it's working. I can use it, but I haven't tried. I have to learn next about GitHub Actions. I just know the high-level details. I've never tried it on my own. I think I have a faint idea about how this works, but I need to set up more things. Just an image isn't sufficient, right? I should have a script which runs well in a container. I have build scripts which I know for sure run in my system, but I don't know how well they'll run in a container. And also after building the image, I need to automate the pushing of the image to our image repos. So all those things have to be done. Again, I'm not an expert at GitHub Actions. I don't know. I didn't even make my first GitHub action yet, but I've seen the templates. I know what are the steps to be done. So I'll do it slowly over the next month.
Do you think it's going to take you like very much longer to have something that you can share with other people and have them actively use it?
You can actually use the container if you want. It's on Docker Hub. It's basically my Linux name, SRADJOKER/EOSARM. Anyone can use it. It's basically similar to Arch Linux ARM, just our repos added, and that's it. So it's basically a fresh Arch Linux ARM container with our repos added. That's it. That's simple. I didn't change many things. So my Docker file is like 15 lines. So it's not that different.
I got you. Very cool. Do you have anybody that's working with you on this, or is this kind of a solo Sravan project, or someone like kind of helping with it?
So yeah, I was going to work on this with a community member like 2 months ago. He said he was going to do it, and then that didn't happen. So I tried doing it on my own along with this help. So, and what he's saying that he doesn't like the base image I'm doing. So he's trying to create a base image from scratch using Alpine. So he's using an Alpine Docker as like a seed, and to create a fresh image using Packstrap. So it seems there's a Packstrap package in Alpine too, and there's some issues with that. Seems the default shell in Alpine is not Bash, it's something else.
Okay.
So he had some issues. Even getting it to like build, it was like 15-20 minutes because it was getting hung up on some Bash commands and they didn't realize. So yeah, he's trying to make a like fresh image. Like he doesn't like the way what I'm using, the lopsided image. He doesn't like it. So he's been trying to make a image like from scratch. So if that's successful, I'll probably shift to that. Again, I have to probably create a new Docker file for it, but it shouldn't be that hard. Once we have an Arch Linux ARM image, which is good enough, I can just modify it.
Well, very cool.
Sravan, just real quick, the default shell in Alpine Linux is the Ash shell.
Yes, Ash shell. Yes, I forgot. He told me. So it seems all containers are based on Alpine. So he's trying to use that to create like a Packstrap and Arch Linux ARM image, and then push that image to Docker Hub. I'll type it in Zoom chat. So this is the image name. So I'll give you a command too. If anyone wants to run it, I'll give them a command too. If you just type this, if you have Docker set up, you can just type this command and it'll run.
Okay. Now this has to be on. This can be on any system. It's an ARM.
No, x86 64 system.
Okay.
This is not this image. So that was the main reason that person, like the community member, is trying to create a new image. He wants it to be a multi-arch.
Okay.
This is not a multi-arch image. It has to be run. Like I ran it on ARM, but each time it gives an error message, but it runs.
Mm-hmm.
But this image is meant to be run on x86 64. But again, that suits my purpose because my ultimate goal is to use GitHub Actions on it.
Okay.
So GitHub Actions is run on an x86 64 system. So yeah, I don't. It's for my use case. This is fine, but this is not a multi-arch. So we have to run it in a normal system. But it's simple. Just run this one command. So this is like a temporary container. It'll open a command line interface.
Mm-hmm.
You can run commands, and then once you exit, it'll kill. So that's the command I shared in Zoom chat.
Okay, very cool. I'll have to ask a little bit more about that to like how I should put it in the show notes afterward. So thank you very much for that. This is very cool. This is very much higher level than me. This is when I realized that, you know, there are people on this panel that are way beyond my technical abilities.
This is really simple. Like,
Sure.
it took half day for me to set this up.
Okay. I believe you that it's easy for smart guys like you. No, I just built myself a time machine over the weekend. It was really easy. Just run this command.
The main thing was like actually getting the Docker file, like the main commands. But turns out like writing a Docker file is sort of easy. You just have to write it in a logic. You have to go step by step, write in a logic. Like first pull the base image and then change the work directory. Then if you want to have any files you want to copy onto the image, you can use copy. And then you can run bash commands using run. So you just have to type run space a bash command and run that command on that container. So yeah, it's not that difficult once you start used to it. Again, I'm doing really simple stuff. I've read some Docker files which are a lot complicated, but like what I'm doing is like really simple because I'm making only minor modifications.
No, I love it. I think what you're doing is great.
Sravan, installing Linux is easy too, unless you've never done it before.
That's very true. Well played, Colin. Well played. Well, thank you very much, Sravan. I really appreciate you sharing that. I have some questions for you after the show because I don't want to belabor my. I don't want to demonstrate my ignorance to the masses right now. So let's go on to the main topic here, which is at the not so common desktop environment exploration, or NsCDE. So this last week, we made a challenge, or whatever you want to call it, to explore the not so common desktop environment on your system. You can install it on multiple different distributions. It was available, I know for a fact, Fedora and OpenSUSE. I've wanted to do a desktop environment. I thought, let's start off with something very uncommon, the not so common desktop environment. So there was a straw poll that Eris, who isn't here this week because what did you say he was doing, Sravan? He told you what he was doing?
Playing in Battle Frontier.
Okay, that's what he's doing. I'll tell you that, Eris, he's always on an adventure, it seems like. But he did a straw poll. How is the NsCDE exploration going? 33% said not so common at all. It is great. 0% said it's okay. 16% said I'm not having a good time with it. 16% said I'm not interested. Another 16% said I'm unable to do this exploration. And 16% said not interested in doing any of the explorations. So I did get a reply. The CDE is the open source version of CDE, which I was mistaken when I mentioned that last week. So I want to be corrected on that. Someone fact-checked me and was fact-checked false. NsCDE is a separate project. It mimics CDE. So I somehow thought otherwise. But anyway, so we can also do CDE at some point in time, but that's a whole different ball of wax. So NsCDE is an open source theme or shell built on top of FVWM designed to mimic CDE. And just some quick background on it from their GitHub page. It says, what is the not so common desktop environment? It's a retro but powerful Unix desktop environment which resembles CDE look and partially the feel, but with more powerful and flexible framework beneath the surface, more suited for the 21st century. Unix-like and Linux systems and user requirements of the original common desktop environment. NsCDE can be considered as a heavyweight FVWM theme on steroids, but combined with a couple of other free software components and custom applications from the FWM ecosystem, and a lot of configuration. NsCDE can be considered a lightweight hybrid desktop environment. In other words, NsCDE is a heavy FVWM, and it consists of a set of FWM applications and configurations enriched with Python and shell background drivers, a couple of additional free software tools and applications. So FVWM3 is also supported. So visually, it mimics CDE, the well-known common desktop environment of many commercial Unix systems of the 90s. It supports CDE backdrops and palettes with FVWM color sets. Has a theming generator for, I don't know what some of these are, XT, XAW, Motif, I know GTK2, GTK3, Qt4, and Qt5. Integrating with all these bits and pieces, the user gets a retro visual experience across almost all X11 applications, enriched with a bunch of powerful FVWM concepts and functions, modern applications, and font rendering. NsCDE acts like a link between the classic CDE look and the fast and extensible environment well suited for modern day computing. And it goes on with a bunch of other stuff. But so that's a little bit of background on NsCDE. Who here got a chance to play with it? Did a few people anyway get a chance to? Okay, so Colin did. I guess Vince might have been checking it out maybe, but maybe didn't. Jinda sort of did.
Yeah,
Sort of. Carlos, did you?
I did not.
No, Benny did not, and Mark didn't. Mark probably used it though back in the day, so that probably doesn't.
I found out about it when I got back from the East Coast Rep Rap Festival. So
Oh, okay, very cool. So I saw it was some time ago. NsCDE was built for OpenSUSE, and I thought, well, I want to try that at some day, and I didn't really have a chance to do it. And then I thought I'd shoehorn it into Linux Saloon, and here we are. So, Jinda, what distribution did you run NsCDE on?
Oh, I ran it on MX Linux. I installed it from the source code from the GitHub page.
Oh, okay.
I had a couple troubles with it, and then I decided, well, I think I know what's wrong. That shouldn't affect anything. So I ran it, learned that I had the problem that Colin had that I couldn't figure out to fix. And I learned that when you reboot it, you can never get back out of it. And so, yeah. So once I never found I couldn't get out of it again to go try to fix stuff, I just gave up.
Well, that's fair.
I completely gave up with the whole thing. I was like, okay, I'm done. I mean, it took me a long time to actually even getting it to even remotely close to be working.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I guess if it
It was a
wasn't.
good learning experience, really.
Yeah.
It was. I mean,
That's good.
I learned how to do some stuff in the command line that I didn't learn before because I watched a video of a guy installing it on Ubuntu, and there was a couple of things that he was doing that I didn't realize, you could do, or I didn't get it. I don't know. I didn't know it, whatever. But yeah, it was a good learning experience, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Gotcha. Did you get any time actually using it at all, like browsing the web or doing some?
I gave
function?
up quicker than that.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
I gave up quicker than that. I couldn't get the menus to work right because Colin had the same problem. The menu bar was on the top, and so when you click them, the menu.
Oh, okay.
And then they were on the top. So I was like, okay, I think I screwed something up. I thought I did it wrong, and I just didn't go back.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Well, no, it was good. Still fun.
Yeah. Okay. That's fun. And then, Colin, you said you tried it a little bit, but also had a bit of a challenge with it.
Oh, I discovered why it's called the not so common desktop environment. I discovered that.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I messed around with it a little bit. Like Jinder said, luckily I did it in a VM on one of Esnix's Easy Archer XFCE installs, which I used to build my ISOs. And once I'd logged out of that to go back into the XFCE desktop, I couldn't log in. It just kept logging back into. It went to log in and then just came back to the login screen. So that's all it did. It was a continuous loop. So that was a bit odd. So I thought, luckily I didn't install it on my main system because that would have been extremely annoying.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So I played around with it started off with the panel up top, but the menus and little arrows where the menus open upwards, and I was clicking on things and nothing was happening. And then I don't know how I did it, but the menu is quite easy to move, but I don't know how I did it to start with, but end up down the bottom. And then I realized the menus were popping up and that was all fine. So I could get to everything there. Just had a look around, tried every color that I could think of, just changing the color of the desktop. So I went down that rabbit hole a bit, but it's not something. Sorry?
Say all those colors are the same kind of blah, I would say. Like there wasn't,
Yeah, pretty much.
there wasn't one that I'm like, whoa, this one blows me away. So I left it at the default.
Yeah, yeah,
The-
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the may as well go for the
No.
pastel and orange and all the weirdness that went with it.
Yeah, nothing really stood out, to be honest. Played around with the file manager a bit and whatever, but yeah, it just I lost interest very quickly, I must say.
Yeah,
To be honest.
That's all
So
good.
yeah, just sort of I played around a little bit just to see what it was like to have something to say today, but
Yeah.
pretty much that was it.
No, I totally get it. So for me, well, I installed an OpenSUSE. It was very simple to install. I just did OPI. I think it's just OPI NsCSD, and it basically went out there, grabbed it, pulled it in, and no problems. I can actually switch between that and Plasma or whatever desktop environments I have installed on the SDDM, the login screen.
And so you didn't have an issue with logging in
Nope.
on your end?
Nope.
Okay, that's interesting.
Nope, no issues there. And I used it like quite a bit to see if I could accomplish my regular tasks on NsCDE, and it wasn't a pleasure, I will say. I mean, it was definitely nostalgic, and it worked. I did have a few instances where it kind of froze and locked up on me, and I had to like kill it and then re-get into it, and that was kind of annoying. Not sure what was going on there. That was obviously a wart. I'll probably do some bug reporting on that just to see if maybe we can kind of smooth out some of those issues. I don't know why. It's not like I'm going to use it regularly, but I did really enjoy it. And so I want to cover some of the positives. One, it has the multiple virtual desktop switcher already right there, which I think is great. It obviously has a different like paradigm for how to get to different applications. So applications are actually broken down in that bar in different menus. That's a little bit different. There were some issues where it didn't actually parse and have all my applications that I did use in the menus. So that was a little bit, of a frustration point for me. But the applications did work. I was actually able to use Kdenlive in it, which was a little bit weird, but I kind of enjoyed it at the same time. And it reminded me of the times when I used CDE. Let me back up here. So I first used CDE on HP Unix back in the early 2000s. I did all the CAD stuff was on these HP Unix systems. In fact, I have a couple of them down here, which I haven't used, but kind of makes me want to get them usable again. And so when I first came across CDE, the other operating system at the time I was using was Windows 98, and I thought, what is this magic, this CDE? How can I get this at home? And somebody says, oh, well, you could put Linux on your computer at home. Like, Linux? What is this Linux? Actually, no, I kind of know what it is. The Penguin operating system, right? I like penguins. So that's actually what set me down my Linux journey was CDE, because of this. I thought it was such an amazing, different way of looking at the desktop. It didn't go the Mac way or the Windows way. It went its own way. And I find today, that I don't want to go down in a big diatribe about that, but I find today it's definitely an operating system built for another decade, I would say. The user interface is very usable, but certain things like how you switch or tile, like in Plasma, I just can't do it here with CDE. I'm just going to say CDE because the NS just makes it harder for me to say on CDE. But you can move things from desktop to desktop, but it's a little more mouse centric. I couldn't find ways of doing things quickly with the keyboard, or maybe I just didn't learn them quick enough. But I thought that was, so it was usable. So I could have like one desktop with Kdenlive, another with the web browser, another one with like, my email client or whatever. So that was all doable. But, there were some issues like, again, with the tiling or how it would cover up the menu on the bottom, because you couldn't actually utilize all of it, so you'd lose the menu on the bottom. But I did like how if you brought your mouse down there, it would pop up so you could actually get and move around and whatnot. So it was very usable, but I did find it to be something from, definitely from another decade, okay, maybe another century. That bites when I say it like that. From the 1900s, as my kids would say, which irritates me. Anyway, but yeah, I thought it was fun to use, and I think that if you're running Fedora or OpenSUSE, it's very easy to install. So that was actually one little benefit there. I'm not sure about Arch. Now, Carlos, did you use CDE ever in the past?
Sorry, my wife was at the door. Hang on. The closest I've ever used to CDE, we had we had one HPUX machine at my office that the plebes were not allowed to touch. So because that was run by the HP engineers, so the rest of us were not allowed to touch it. The closest thing I had to that was I got to play with a Next box.
Okay.
And its next step interface, which was kind of based on CDE, and it used Motif, which was one of the graphical libraries you mentioned earlier. But I did not do it for this exploration, mostly because I'm still grinding away at getting Qtile working the way I want it to.
Totally understandable. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that, okay, so user interface challenges, both Jinda and Colin had similar issues. Got it. And I'm going to go ahead and venture to guess that nobody here is going to continue to use CDE. Would that be an accurate statement? Yeah. Okay.
You know,
I think so.
it's so not common that when I looked it up, first result the search engine gave me was not NsCDE, it was NsCDA, the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America.
That's more common, apparently.
If you like history of the American colonies pre-revolution, go check that out. But
Okay.
it'll probably be more entertaining than
I got you.
at least the search engine thinks so.
Which engine did you use? Was it the Google's or the DuckDuckGo, Bing?
Actually, Brave.
Oh,
I've been
Brave.
using Brave's built-in.
Okay.
Fine.
Now, I probably won't keep using it, but I'm going to keep it installed on my system because it's kind of fun to just jump back into it for nostalgia's sake and remember where we've been, I guess, in the world of computers and how things have progressed over time. Yeah, I think it's definitely fun. It's unfortunate that nobody else got it, like not all the distributions have it packaged quite right. But it's definitely fun.
Vince was saying he was going to install it. I don't know if he did or not.
Yeah, I did. And the first time I tried to load it, it didn't work. It just got a black screen. I'm looking at it now, and I'm just thinking, how far desktops have come in the last however many years.
Yeah.
Let's just say.
Yeah, they have come a long way, for sure. I mean, if I had to choose between GNOME and NsCDE, I'd probably go NsCDE though. Yeah. If I was forced, this is which one it probably would be. Nothing against GNOME, I just don't like it. But if you like it, cool, it's good for you. Keep using it.
And I will say one thing about GNOME, Nate. No matter how
Did you say no
much
matter?
more- I said no matter
I-
how hard they work on it, it will never be my daily desktop. It just won't.
I think we should.
I mean, I have respect for them. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the desktop, but I will give it I'll give it some coverage, yes. But truthfully, it's just not my preferred desktop. Truthfully.
I think when all the distributions are caught up on GNOME 43, I think we should do another GNOME challenge again.
Yeah.
You like something we
I
should
mean,
do? I mean,
it has come a long way. I will give it that.
I have such a
I don't know.
and I don't know what my problem is, but I have such a visceral dislike for it, and I'm so because I keep forcing myself to try it from time to time, just to poke myself, I guess. I don't really know.
No,
Yeah.
it just makes your other desktop look that much better.
It could be.
Yeah,
It could
I
be.
would agree with Jinda on that. Yeah.
I do it as well. I take a peek at it every so often, and I like it less every single time I try it.
Yeah. I mean,
Because it's like, oh, what else can we do to make this thing less of a pleasure to use? It's like, do you like to rice? Don't use GNOME. It's like,
yeah, that is true. I mean, from my experience, the most riceable desktop that's not a window manager is XFC or KDE. One of those two. I mean,
I
that's
think-
the way I look at it. Go ahead.
I think GNOME is a very misunderstood desktop.
Which is why I think that we should try it again.
Yeah. I mean,
Say-
once most distros have adopted 43, I think you're onto something, man.
I think But look, I use GNOME. I have been using GNOME for quite a while, but I can see that they seem to have done a whole 360 catching up with technology. So it's taken them such a long time. I'm not a guru at what runs in the background and all that, but from what I can see, they've taken a lot of stuff out. And I think the reason for that is because the changes that they were making, the stuff that they took out couldn't work on the changes of technologies that they were doing. I think I may be wrong here. And then now that they're putting all this GTK4 and all these other new technologies in, it looks as though all that stuff that they've taken out, they're slowly bringing back in. Now, I could be wrong. It just looks that way to me. But maybe there was a reason why they did all that, and they've just been copying it on the chin. I don't know.
I think you're on the money, Colin, when you say that it's misunderstood and they're trying to reintroduce what they took out. But I think in a way they also are trying to provide a way of doing things that it may or may not jive with what other people want to do with their desktops, but it is a way of doing things that a lot of other operating systems like Mac or like Windows have tried to refine over the years to try to suit the most people. And when you look at the install base of GNOME, and there's no like accurate numbers, but you look at which major distributions have GNOME as their default desktop, it's not an insignificant number of people who are using GNOME. So there must be something to it that actually helps those people.
I would have to say that Ubuntu does a lot of work to probably make GNOME more usable because they have the Ubuntu desktop version. So that's probably why there are a lot of people that use it, but they don't really know what they're using probably. But I think that's the difference as well, because a stock GNOME on anything that you install stock GNOME with is a lot different to the Ubuntu version, really. You can change the Ubuntu version.
Furthermore, I think it depends so much on who you listen to. So if you're watching a lot of YouTube videos where people are just sort of espousing their love for this or their love for that, but because other desktops like KDE offer a lot more customization, it feels like there's a lot more content to be made for that, whereas GNOME is just sort of designed to be used. That's just the feeling that I get.
I have to agree with that. There's not, I mean, look, I've been theming GNOME for a long time, but now I don't really bother because it's got a dark theme. I find it quite pleasant out of the box now with the dark theme, and the buttons I used to theme the buttons up. I still can do that, but there are problems with the GTK4 and stuff now, so that is an issue. That become an issue for the Cinnamon desktop as well. So that's where they've caused issues with Cinnamon desktop and the way you can theme the Cinnamon desktop as well. That caused a few issues there as well. But that's just a change in technology though, isn't it? So I don't know whether Cinnamon needs to work around that, which I think they do at the moment, but whether they catch up to the technology, because now Cinnamon actually, what do they use there? The window manager is Mutter, is it? Or they've gone closer to GNOME's Mutter now, so that technologies may change for Cinnamon a bit. Is it Mutter? And they used to use something else. I can't remember what they used.
It used to be Muffin.
Oh, Muffin, yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds delicious.
I always remember Muffin with Cinnamon.
Yeah, true. That's right. Yeah. So now they've gone back to using Mutter a bit now, I think. So they're getting closer to the GNOME technology a bit more.
Yeah.
So-
and interesting thing is that I think GNOME is sort of becoming maybe less popular, like GTK3, GTK4 base is becoming less popular on developers, since two major desktop environments will be moving away from GTK altogether. Budgie is going with AFL and Cosmic, and there's a reason for it, because again, the developers are very insular. They have a particular vision. Like Vince, you're saying there's a reason why the major distributions use GNOME. Yes, because they contribute to it. They write code for it. They don't write code for KDE. Like Red Hat, why would Red Hat use KDE? Because when they're the main commits Like all the comments are either Red Hat or Ubuntu, most of them. Like other people also come, it's a community project, but
Why do the major distros contribute to it though?
again, I think Ubuntu gave up on desktop while doing Unity, and Red Hat already had the GNOME thing going. They said, how do we put less resources? Let's use GNOME. Simple. I'm not sure why they didn't go for KDE. Like
So
that would have been a good option, but again,
So my theory on GNOME is that you look at the major distros who use it. So your Red Hat, your Ubuntu's, as their default, right?
SUSE.
And SUSE, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That actually furthers my point, because my point was going to be that these are distros that are deployed in large organizations. Yes. So a big company comes to SUSE or Ubuntu and says, "Oh, look, we want to replace all our desktops with Linux." So they'll
ABC
say,
Warehouse is one of those that does that.
Right. And so these companies, they don't want to spend a lot of money on having to maintain and manage people's computers on their desks. And what's something that actually works and requires very little effort in terms of customization, you just give it to the user and they just use it. So in a way, limiting people's functionality actually helps improve reliability, is my thought, in terms of support that's required and whatnot.
Like,
I think that's a good point.
I think is because like Ubuntu is becoming less and less of a factor in like pushing forward new desktop technologies. Like before maybe 2015, Ubuntu was the one pushing all the new technologies, but it's currently Red Hat now. So like everyone is like piggybacking off that. Okay, whatever they're doing, we put the least amount of effort there, because again, it doesn't make them money. IoT makes them money. So, but for Red Hat, somehow Workstation makes them money. So they're putting a lot of effort into Wayland. Like I've seen the commits, I think I talked about it last time too. I've seen the commits for Wayland and X11. Most of the commits are from Red Hat, like for both. Pipewire, like all these technologies are being maintained by and pushed forward by Red Hat. And it depends, like Red Hat has enough money to put money into this resource, like people into this development, but other companies used to do that, but they stopped doing it. Again, I don't know, because I haven't followed history that back. Again, I'm a new Linux user, so this has been some of the short history lessons I've taken, but it's like companies want to just put the minimum effort. Like again, Ubuntu is putting effort in a different, again, they've released like Ubuntu Pro or something over the last week. So I don't think they're innovating that much anymore. They're just piggybacking off Red Hat, and that's the state. And there's another organization of KDE which is trying to do things their own way, and I like their community and vision more. Again, the Calamaris installer what I use and also develop on is also a KDE. Like it was sponsored by KDE. I don't know if there's a new maintainer yet. The old maintainer is going to leave, but it's all KDE, so it's more inclusive. They're trying to do different things rather than being a monolithic structure. They try different things.
Before we stray too far, I just want to hit. There's a comment that Don in the chat said that it's false to say that because everyone's using it, they like it. GNOME, that is.
Yes.
And I think it's more accurate to say that. I think what your point, Vince, is the fact that a company can more easily lock down GNOME and therefore have less user issues because it's not as easy to customize and have people goof up on and have their IT guys come out and fix it. It's more structured in that way, which I can see that as a strong point for sure. But before we get on too far in the GNOME, because actually that's on the list of things to talk about is GNOME, because we were talking about desktop environments today, this week in GNOME. I do want to talk about next week. We're doing a distro exploration. If you have been listening to Linux User Space, they recently did a talk on Alpine Linux. So I highly recommend you go back and listen if you listen to podcasts, other podcasts, of course. They did an episode on Alpine Linux. You can hear their successes with Alpine Linux, and it should hopefully help you on your journey. So we're going to do next week. Our distro exploration will be Alpine Linux, and we'll have a chat about that. So install it any way you like, whether it's on physical hardware, a virtual machine, or if you're like Mark and you install it on something that's not even on your house, or I guess he installs it like on something way out in the in space and remotes into it and does a very different kind of installation. I'm interested in hearing how he gets along with that, if he's able to do it. Will he be able to do it?
I should be able to do it.
Oh, good. Alpine Linux. It'll be fun.
I'll probably try it in Docker or create something from scratch. Let's see.
So my thing is, any way that you explore it, I don't care how it is, I'm interested in hearing the different perspectives of how you would implement it or how it works for you. So if that's in a virtual machine, is it a virtual machine, a Docker?
Fact.
Yes, fun fact. I love fun facts.
I actually have Alpine installed on my Android phone. It's easy. Try it.
Well,
it's easy.
Then I guess you won.
it's easy.
Is it a chroot?
I think it's called Proot or something. You can install several different distros. I forgot how I installed it, but I have it installed. I probably can run APK commands. I've never tried it. I installed and forgot about it, but good time to go back and see if it works well.
Yeah.
I installed it in Termux using, I think, Proot or something. I forgot. I'll post instructions in the Telegram chat.
I love Termux. You can do so much cool stuff with Termux.
I'll post instructions if I find them.
Termux should be one that we do some week, just as a note.
Is that the same as Tmux? TMUX?
No.
TERMUX.
Termux is a terminal emulator for your Android phone. And if you have Termux, you can install Proot, or I forgot that app, and then you can run a whole bunch of distributions on it. I don't know if you can do GUI, but you can install distributions and run terminal commands for sure.
You can do all kinds of stuff, even like Kali on your phone, where you have all the tools. You can do net tools, end mapping stuff. It's really handy to just have Termux and install things like, if you have network issues in your house and you need to, ping a device from your phone instead of going to a laptop or something, wherever you are, if you can do it from your phone, if you're having trouble connecting to something else from your phone.
Huh.
Anyway, let's not get too far off Alpine, but yeah.
That's very cool.
I think I have 16 instances running on my server.
Of Alpine?
Yes.
Wow. And I just barely learned of Alpine, and I guess I'm way behind the curve.
Most of the containers I use are Alpine based, so and I've got at least 16 running at any given time on my server.
Nice. Is there a reason why? Like, what's the reason for Alpine?
Let's see. I've got a Tailscale node. I've got a net data node, which shows me the statistics of my server.
Okay.
I've got the R suite. I've got a couple instances of Ghost running. I've got a Jellyfin server. I've got a traffic server, Minecraft, Heimdall for my startup screens, and other utilities. A simplified version of Nextcloud called File Run, which just does the file part of Nextcloud, not all the other bits.
Very cool.
SyncThing.
Very familiar with SyncThing. I really like SyncThing. Do you run a SyncThing node, or is this just a SyncThing, or like a relay node, or do you just have a SyncThing instance?
This is okay. So this is part of my. Wendy would love this because this is what I use to back up all of my photographs. I run SyncThing on my workstation, which is running Endeavor OS. And then it syncs up to my TrueNAS scale server.
Okay.
And from there, I have a nightly rsync job that backs it up to a Wasabi S3 instance out in the cloud. And then, but it also synchronizes down a copy to my wife's computer. She has an external array, which she has a Drobo, which I'm going to have to replace now since they are now no longer in business.
Oh boy.
Ouch.
And then I have a TrueNAS scale server running in my cabin, and I back some stuff up there too.
Nice. A lot of offsite backups then.
Yes, all over Tailscale.
Wow.
So is Alpine basically? So if you had to say what is Alpine in your experience, what would be the easiest way to describe it to somebody? Because I'm looking at their website, I'm like, what would I use this for?
It is it's a container OS. It is a very, very light OS for operating inside of containers.
Okay. So like if you had one piece of software you wanted to run and have it touch absolutely nothing else, you would stick it in that.
Well, basically, it would be the host operating system inside of the container. Your container would be set up to do something else, like say run MariaDB or something like that. If you're not familiar with containers, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going into professor mode. If y'all understand the concept of a virtual machine, it's a pretend
Yes.
computer inside your computer. It's got an OS, it's got everything on it. Okay, now containers are very similar to virtual machines, except they're extremely streamlined, and each container does one thing, and it does it well. So they have to be very light, and they have to be very, very stripped of bloat to do the thing that they have to do. And operating systems like Alpine are designed to be very lean and fit nicely inside of a container in the cloud, because if the container is big and fat, it takes a long time to spin up, and you need to spin these things up very quickly. And if you use things like Kubernetes to manage all of this, then you have, whereas Docker, you can spin up a container, Kubernetes, which is an orchestration system for containers, which can run on top of Docker, will allow you to do things like, oh, this container is getting a bit bogged down. Let me spin up 3 more copies of it and then load balance all of them for you transparently. So like if you're like, say, for example, I'm running a container running an instance of Ghost, which is for my blog. And let's say, for example, for some stupid reason, let's say, for example, something I get featured in Destination Linux, and all of a sudden everyone decides to go to my website. My server, instead of melting the container, would spin up a bunch of other copies of the container until my modem melts. And then, which has happened to me before. I used to run Planet AMD 64 back when 64-bit computing was a thing. Was not a thing yet. And they announced my website on Tech TV, and I went from 20,000 hits in a month to 1.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was running it out of my house like I'm doing this. And I did not have gigabit internet like I do now.
Websites are probably a little bit less though too. They didn't have as much stuff with them.
Yeah, the last one was a forum. It was a big forum.
Oh,
I remember the days when everything was named Planet something.
Yes, we actually have a car dealership called Planet Dodge.
Planet Hollywood was fun. Remember that?
Yep.
You have a current link to your website, Carlos?
That site's been gone since 2008, unfortunately.
No, I mean like to your current website.
It's, well, I'll put it in the comments.
Okay.
I have a couple. I have my photography one, which I host, my 3D printing one, which is a very interesting top level domain, and my professional one.
You do it right. You break away your professional from your fun.
I have to publish my update from ERRF, but I'm still going through the
Yep,
photos.
it's up.
So you do 3D printing. Do you run Octoprint or anything similar in like, what is it?
Clipper.
Do you put that in a Alpine or in a Docker or somewhere? Or
that actually runs on Raspi OS on a Raspberry Pi on my but I have gotten a hold of a local 3D printing shop called Fabrico, which is actually a pretty big shop up here. And they're going to be rebuilding my printer, because I have a Formbot Trudon, which is a Chinese printer that is inspired by Voron, which is Chinese for blatant ripoff. No, they actually had a long chat with the Voron team to allow them to say that, inspired by Voron. But these guys over there build actual Voron, so they're going to make mine more inspired by Voron.
Nice.
Because I'm trying to do some work with mine, but it only gets as far as printing a Benchy, and as soon as I get the Benchy working correctly, when I go to print something for real, it breaks down. So
you said Clipper or Flipper?
No, Clipper with a K.
With a K.
Yes, clipper.org.
And Carlos, was that Planet AMD64.com?
Yes.
Okay. I was looking at it on Wayback Machine just
because.
Just because.
Yep.
Because I know Nate would be interested too.
Yep. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
It's clipper3d.org.
Yeah,
There we
this is
go.
Clipper 3D. Yeah,
'Cause
it's an open source project.
I messed with Octoprint and tried to get it installed and things, but I had all kinds of weird stuff that would happen with the prints that I knew were good,
Mhm.
and it would.
So
I don't know. It like my temperatures wouldn't hold where I had set them, and like on like I have a Prusa, and you can go in and tune it. If you tune it on the printer, it should hold right there, but Octoprint would override my tuning as I'm going. So
yeah, so Clipper, actually you can use Octoprint as a front end to Clipper. So Clipper actually replaces the firmware on your printer.
oh, okay, never mind.
And because the processor on the main control board of the printer, while it will be a 32-bit processor, isn't quite as beefy as that of a Raspberry Pi 4 or a Compute Module 4 or something like that. So what Clipper does is that it actually replaces the firmware on your printer and then does all the heavy lifting on the Raspberry Pi 4. Because Octoprint, what it does is just Octoprint is a series of Python scripts, and all it does is just fire G-code commands over the USB port to the printer. But
That makes sense.
the printer's firmware is still the printer's firmware, whatever control board you're using, whether you're using a Spider or a Dewey or a Manta 8P or whatever. Well, Manta 8P doesn't count because that's a Clipper board. but like some of the more classic boards, like a tiny like an ENC or any of the other classic control boards, will have like Marlin firmware or something like that loaded on it.
That's what the Prusa has, yeah.
Yeah, Prusa uses the Marlin. And so what Octoprint does is it just fires G-code commands over a serial connection to the Marlin firmware, and the Marlin firmware is processing that. Clipper replaces Marlin. In other words, you have to actually erase the storage on your main board and install the Clipper firmware on your printer. And then the Clipper application, which runs on Raspbian OS, or Raspi OS, they're doing that Mac thing. That runs there, and that also provides like the mainsail interface. So you have the GUI, and the Raspberry Pi does the Wi-Fi, and it like all the heavy lifting is being done by the Raspberry Pi, and all that the control board is doing is getting high-speed commands, G-code commands, but it doesn't have to do the math anymore. All the math is happening up at the Clipper.
So it saves all the brain power on the printer for printing.
Yeah. Plus, you can install this little gadget on it, which is an accelerometer, and it can actually test your printer and record the vibration patterns of your printer structure, so it can compensate for it when it's slicing the G, well, not slicing, but when it's interpreting the G code, so that it will accelerate and decelerate properly, so you won't get ringing artifacts, and you can print at higher speeds. It does some really slick stuff. And one of the things they're going to be doing on my printer is they're going to be putting on the print head. I have a direct drive print head, so that means the filament, instead of being pushed down a tube into the print head, it comes down into the print head. Print head pulls the filament into the print, so it has a very, very short path that it needs to traverse to get from the motor to the hot end.
Yeah, I think I want to do that. The direct drive. I'm going to replace mine with a direct drive, I think. Because I think I keep having issues with seems like the tube wears out and then starts.
Yeah, the Bowden tube, Bowden tube, and the PTFE tube inside will wear out. And direct drive is an improvement. But what I'm going to have them install is something called a CAN bus controller. So that's going to reduce the giant cluster of wires that I have running from the printer to the print head, because not only is it the wires for the print head, but it is also the wires for the heating elements, the wires for the thermistor, the wires for the fans, the wires for all the bits, and then like my BL touch sensor, all those wires come in there. So what happens is that they're going to put a little board called a CAN bus board, and then it just runs 4 wires in an umbilical from the base of the gantry to the print head. and lightens that up, and then also incorporates this little guy into that board. So I don't have to worry about plugging this other end onto my Raspberry Pi and then kind of worming it through while it does the test and it shakes the out of the print head, trying to figure out how much torture it can withstand before it starts screwing up. And so that becomes an integrated part of the system, which I am looking forward to. So this is going to be fun. I will probably write that. I'm going to be writing that up on my website there as this progresses. Actually, it's kind of funny. The Voron people at ERF said, "Ooh, document this conversion because we want to see this happen."
Yeah, CAN bus is what they use in automotive, isn't it? The same technology?
Yes, it is. Okay. It is all used in automotive and in CNC. It's used in CNC a lot.
Okay.
To cut down the bundle of wires going to the operational head.
The more you know.
What is that piece called?
That's called a CAN bus controller. CANBUS. I think it's CAN, maybe KAN. I'm not sure, but CAN bus.
That's cool. All right, cool. I want to move on to our next open discussion, which this would be part of that, but I'm going to close out the Alpine Linux bit. So don't forget next week, Alpine Linux, go to alpinelinux.org. You can get the link in the doobly-doo below too as well. So, all right. So for open discussion, we're going to take any topics from around the community for discussion. This is just going to be a free-flowing conversation like we were just having, but I'm in this section. Oh, anyway. So I wanted to talk about what's going on this week in GNOME. So I don't know, has anyone here gone to This Week in GNOME before? I think I talked about it last week. But just in case you haven't, there's a great site if you want to see what's going on in GNOME that you can check out. So there's some really neat new developments. One of the applications I think I would like to try is something called Video Trimmer. Has anybody tried this? It's been updated for GNOME 43. So it brings a working drag and drop to open up videos on, it's a flat pack, and then you can trim the videos on either end. I think that for anyone who does video production, I think probably Colin, that might be something that would be useful to you, I'm guessing, or anybody else. Vince, I think you've done some video production in times past, probably in the before times, I think is what it was at this point. I think that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a GNOME application, is it?
It is. You can still use it in other desktop environments. So another really neat application that they have is called Girens for Plex. It's a GTK client for playing movies, TV shows, and such from your Plex library. Now I'm curious to know, Carlos, do you have something like you said you have Jellyfin, right? Not Plex?
Yes, I use Jellyfin.
Okay. I wonder if something like this would work with Jellyfin as well.
Well, Jellyfin is a fork of MB, is a fork of Plex.
That's a wonderful web, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it's like MB was forked from Plex when Plex decided they wanted money.
And then MB wanted money, so Jellyfin was.
And Jellyfin was forked from MB when MB wanted money. So, so yeah. To be honest with you, I found Plex to be extremely top heavy. Especially when you're running it on your media server, they have all kinds of hardware, and then of course there's the whole have a lifetime subscription. It's like, okay, yeah, you lost me at subscription.
Yeah, the problem I have with subscriptions is I don't watch movies on my MB server all the time. I don't have the subscription for it, so I'm not using any of the extended features. But the problem that I have with it now, which I'm not sure my solution on this, at least with MB, is shamefully I have a Fire Stick on my TV that I no longer really use now because I can't use MB on it because they want me to pay to use my server on the TV. I don't want to spend $5 a month for watching my content. To me, it just doesn't. I can't wrap my noggin around that. I would rather just have file folder that I just browse to at this point. Over.
There's a Jellyfin client for Fire Stick.
Is there?
Yes. And Roku. And Tizen.
That's something I need to explore, I guess. But
I set up the Jellyfin server when my kids went off to college, because they had their TV shows that they like to watch and whatever, and I was recording media for them or whatever, and then basically I said okay, and I set up a site that they could come in via a Tailscale VPN, and
Nice.
and they would just get on their laptops when they were at school up in Gainesville, and I'm down in Miami, and they went to UF, and go Gators. And they would be able to watch TV and stuff. Like there were shows I would watch with my son, so I would put them on the server, and then we'd just watch them together. while
That's
he
very
was up
cool.
there.
That's cool. I need to check out Jellyfin. I think there's a Docker image I can run for that, right?
Yes, there is. Absolutely. There's a
So-
Docker image. You can run it on, I run it on my TrueNAS scale as a container, and it works well. I have it running in my cabin so that my guests can watch movies.
Oh, nice. That's very cool.
That way they won't steal my Blu-rays. So I basically buy Blu-rays from the $4 bin at Walmart, whatever. I use my perfectly legal right to make a backup copy of it, and I place that backup copy on a Jellyfin server I have in my cabin that they can watch for free.
That's cool. Yeah, I have basically bins of DVDs that I've bought over the years, and
Mhm.
I haven't fully ripped them all to. I use like a Make MKV is what I'm using.
Yeah.
And that seems to do the best job, and it's very quick, and it names everything properly, and just it's nice. So then I just dump those on the folder that has all that MB looks at. But I could run Jellyfin in parallel to it, just use the same
Yeah, just point to the same library.
right.
It actually reads the MB format.
Oh, well, hot dog. No, the
It
question
shouldn't
is,
be a problem.
yeah, I wonder where it keeps that file though, that data file for the
No. It has its own data file
Mhm.
storage. You would just save that into, when you define the container, there's going to be a config folder,
Mhm.
and just don't make that point to the MB folder. Just keep it a Jellyfin config folder someplace else when you mount the volume onto the container.
Okay.
And Bob's your uncle. And just make sure the media one will be the same as the other one. Just point it to the other one.
Okay, that should be fun to check that out.
Yes, and then it'll just take its sweet time to read everything, start picking up all the metadata, and make it look super cool.
Excellent. All right, another release this week in Linux, this week in GNOME, is the Extension Manager 0.4 has been released. So its new features are fully adaptive, mobile-friendly user interface, upgrade assistant to check extension compatibility before upgrading, which I think is very cool. As a paginated search results, I don't know what that means.
They're separated into pages.
Okay,
Paginated.
paginated. Okay, that's a new word. I'll write that down. Paginated.
It's derived from pagination, which is the act of separating things into pages.
Oh, huh. These are things I didn't know. Do. No, one of those.
This is all COBOL programming stuff.
Oh, paginated. I like that. New words. Something to add to my lexicon. So unsupported extensions are hidden by default. Full screen image viewer and handles the new GNOME-extension : //URI scheme. So I think that's pretty great. I'm glad they have the extension manager built into GNOME now. That I think is a great.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It is great. So easy to get extensions with that, and you don't even have to open a browser.
That's nice.
Right? You can search for your extensions, and then you can just install them straight from this manager. So there's no messing around with all this. What was the old thing? You get that little strip across Firefox or Google Chrome, and you got to add the support for it in the background and so forth. No need to do that anymore.
That's great.
It's great.
So that someday when we do our GNOME 43 exploration, we'll have to definitely make that one of the criteria that we talk about the extension manager or something like that. So hope Eris is taking notes, because I'm not. Another application that has made the list for this week is you can easily run Windows software on Linux with Bottles. Has anybody tried this in GNOME? Thing called Bottles. Jenda, you've tried that?
Yeah, I've tried it. It's pretty good. It's really actually nice.
So is this like a replacement for using something like Crossover Linux or Lutris? Is it supposed to like supplant that, or is it just a What's the goal for that?
It was just a helper to, like a helper program to make wine work better, basically, is
Okay.
what I thought it was. It's like a
Okay.
front end to wine.
Right.
I guess that's my best for explanation of what it was.
Makes sense. Yeah, I guess that would be nice to have a helper application for wine, just like bare bones wine. But I think there was like there've been other attempts at that, haven't there?
Oh yeah.
Like Plan Linux is another one, I think, and I think maybe there've been some others. So maybe it's the latest incarnation of it.
Yeah, but in this case, I think what's going on is that their metaphor is, instead of coming from the point of, oh, this is the thing to do games on wine, we're just going to take the whole wine theme and, okay, well, how do you present wine? You present wine in a bottle. So, and they're coming from the whole wine aspect. That's like if you ever used Homebrew on the Mac to install software, the formula for installing applications are either formulae or they're casks. Because the whole beer motif, they're just following a theme.
I mean, I think it looks nice. It looks like a nice interface to do these things.
So would a containerized wine application come in a glass?
Yes. Don't drop it.
Yes, if you want to follow the metaphor doggedly to the very ends of time.
So there's another application, I think, this week in GNOME that I think is really interesting. This Tube Converter. It's an easy to use video downloader written in C++ and GTK4 and libedweta. Supports running multiple downloads at once and a variety of file types, so you can download to MP4, WebM, MP3, Opus, FLAC, and WAV. And so it's on FlatHub as well. And that's pretty cool. So if, let's say, you do a bunch of YouTube videos and then your server blows up, you didn't have any backups of it, you can then download your stuff from YouTube, in case. So a lot of neat little applications. I think that's fun to see that they have these things that are as part of the GNOME world. Some other big going-ons have been in KDE. So I don't know if you've ever been to pointieststick.com, Adventures in Linux and KDE. So I don't know if anyone here running KDE is using 5.26 that was released. I don't know who all has it now.
I just ran an update on Fedora 35, and I'm not sure what version. Let me see. I go to console. I'll tell you in a second. But I don't have any issues currently.
So some of the improvements that have happened with...
Yep, 525.
No, I got 526 now is what I have.
I don't have 526 yet.
All right, so some of the changes in KDE. There's some new features. Kate and Kwrite have now adopted the KHamburgerMenu because they are large and complex applications. But the menu is shown by default. Do you think the hamburger menu is a good thing?
Let's call it a Camburger menu. Can we call it a Camburger menu?
Hamburger?
The Camburger. Or at least it's not a kale burger.
I think everything's adopting that type of style now, aren't they? On the mobile phone, that you got the three little dots, I think, and I think most people are adopting that type of menu now.
It seems like it's some extra clicks to get to where you want. Although I used keyboard shortcuts as often as possible, but it does seem like there are more clicks involved in getting to the hamburger menu than it is the traditional menu style.
Is this another save the mouse moment?
This is a save. This is actually save the finger from all that hard work of clicking. There's only so much that joint can actually tolerate.
Oh, Nate's poor finger.
That's why I use Qtile.
It's all keyboard. I don't really care one or the other. As long as I give the option of having buttons for where if I want them, then I'm cool with that. Whatever people want, that's fine with me.
That is a little bit of a gripe that I have with GTK apps, where sometimes you see a hamburger menu on the right, and then on the left you've also got a 3-dot menu. Has anyone seen those? I think GNOME Disks is one that does that, and it gets a bit confusing where you got to find stuff.
I'm sure they'll work it out.
Mm-hmm.
Some other improvements.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Some other improvements is Discover no longer freezes for a few seconds when launched without the internet. It's now faster and more responsive. So they've been saying this for a while now. It is getting better. I think Discover's getting quite good as of late. There are a lot of significant bug fixes that have happened as well in the last week. Yeah, so it's fun to see the different little constant little tweaks going on in Plasma.
This 526 beta looks pretty cool. They have Plasma big screen for television.
Yes. Have you?
That looks cool.
That's something I think is very cool, and what I'm hoping actually works really well. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I have a Pi 4 that I've hooked into my TV that I use in place. Sometimes I still use a Fire Stick because some things are just easier with the remote for the kids. But like the idea of using the big screen with Plasma, that might be really cool for things like MB or I don't know, or Jellyfin. Sorry, Carlos.
So Nate, have you run Plasma on Pi before?
Yeah, I do all the time. It runs pretty well.
What's the
Are you using
backend
SSD?
OS?
Are you using SSD or are you using a SD card?
Just an SD card.
Interesting. It never runs well for me. Like it's not smooth at all.
It's
on
a
my Pi 4.
It's a Pi 4 8 GB.
Yeah, I have the same. It never runs smooth for me. So I stopped using Plasma on my Pi.
Might just be a silicon lottery that you lost on that one.
No,
Although-
literally everything else runs well. I even tried like LXQt plus Kevin, again Nate's idea. Even that runs well. Somehow Plasma, probably because of Baloo or something. Like I've even tried using that. Like only Plasma doesn't run well. Like literally everything else runs well.
Oh, I've been running Plasma on it for quite a long time now. It seems to be all right. I don't use the compositor. I've disabled that because I think there's some aspect of the GPU that is not.
It's an issue. So
Yeah.
I use Plasma on my Odroid N2 Plus. So it doesn't work well with compositor on an X11. But if you want to use compositor and KDE, try Wayland. It's really good, at least for me. The experience is really good. But again, I don't use Wayland because it doesn't work with Barrier. But when Barrier works with Wayland, I'm going to switch my KDE to Wayland and my Odroid. It's really good. Like I was able to watch like 4K videos on YouTube. I can't on X11, but somehow on Wayland I can. I don't know what's the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're. I mean, I'm gonna give you the Apple excuse. Maybe you're holding the Pi wrong.
Or maybe the way it's packaged, I'm not sure. Maybe.
I don't know. You can probably guess what distribution I'm using on my Pi.
OpenSUSE.
Oh, how'd you guess? Very good.
No way.
I know,
don't believe
crazy, right? So apparently there's some issues with the Plasma X11 session crashing. So they fixed that with it auto restarts now, which it did that in the past. So I don't know why they stopped doing it, but that happened. And then, has anybody here tried the big screen, the Plasma big screen yet?
No, not yet. It's the
No.
first time I've seen it. Just
Wow.
looking at their website. What's really cool is it says it can translate various input device events into keyboard and pointer events for the big screen. So if you had like a gaming laptop and you wanted to look like I do, and sometimes I hook it to the TV if I want to watch things on services that I don't have apps for the TV, which I like to get away from apps on a smart TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like a dumb TV and have a device that can do all that. So if I can just sit down just as easy as my Xbox, but use the PlayStation controller on KDE and get around, I also have the wireless keyboard from Logitech everybody should have. If you don't,
Right.
you're dumb.
Yeah, I think I have like 3 or 4 of those now.
And the mouse that works with it too, because you can link them all with one dongle. It's great. But these 3 things right here, pick it up, go over there. If I could use because it gets annoying. You have the thing I'm interested to find out is how well does it hook up where I'm running multiple monitors. So that would be that if it can see the TV in 4K, which is actually one of the things that my Razer doesn't really handle very well, is hooking to the 4K TV. I just put it in 1080. But if it scales nice, that would be great. And to use the controller, plus it's a PlayStation controller with the little mouse, touchpad in the middle. That's game. That's game right there.
Yeah, I want to try it out and see how that works for sure. I don't. It'd be perfect for the Pi that's hooked up to the TV. Although I'm thinking I might retire the Pi from multimedia use and get like an old NUC instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that very strongly.
Don't get one of those i7, those Skull Canyon NUCs. as your set-top box. It'd be hilarious.
I want to get the cheapest NUC I can get my grubby little fingers on, like on eBay. That's what I want.
Skull Canyon's my main system on here. Has been for quite a while.
How is that?
It works all right.
Just all right.
Just all right. It's only my main system,
I don't see
Does
any
what?
hamburger menu on my 8. Where exactly is the hamburger menu?
It's on Kate and Kwrite should be on the right side.
Nope. I still have a normal menu bar. Nope.
Oh, they have KDE just has live images with Plasma. What are they running behind it? Oh, there's Neon. Oh, I see what it is. They're just linking to the other distros that have it.
So let me check when Kate was updated.
Fedora Rawhide has 26 beta.
UI.
I might go grab that spin and
Yeah, 2 days ago. So
try
my
it
Kate
out.
is probably the latest, but I don't see any hamburger menu. I'm running Plasma 5.26.
Now, 526.0 is out. You have to get the beta.
Yep. And I have the latest Kate. I don't know what this hamburger menu is.
See, one of the things that that Mike Tonnell and I found out when we were talking about KDE and updates was that depending on if it's your KDE version is from a fresh install versus an update, your features will present differently sometimes. It's not really a bug because the thing's technically broken. It's just maybe it's buried somewhere.
I think what it is
I don't know.
You have to. So when you upgrade, it's not going to change how you've configured your desktop. And so if you have an older configuration, it's not going to disrupt your old configuration.
Which is good.
Which is good and also bad.
But this menu is not configuration, it's feature. It shouldn't matter.
We can probably just add it. We just put in there. It's probably just a toolbar option that you can just put wherever you want. It's on the right side, but if it's like everything else in KDE, you can just put it really wherever you want or get rid of it entirely, which is the strength. And as Vince discussed earlier about GNOME, could also be considered a weakness because it'd be hard to deploy in an enterprise fashion. The question is, I wonder if you can lock down how the desktop looks so that someone can't screw it up.
Yeah, one big set as default button.
Like, oh, that would be amazing to have a default.
Put in a
button.
feature request.
And have it be, pseudo privileges or, admin, put it behind the admin wall. That way you can lock it down or just reset everything if, small children decide to come by and play daddy at the computer not knowing what they're doing.
Yep.
It's not fun when it happens to 3D printers. I'm just going to put that right there. The big X on the front of the printer, there's no saving it from there.
No, unfortunately, no. Or like a big red emergency stop button. It's like, what does this do? Click. Yeah, it's like, oh, there we go. It kills the print. Congratulations.
That's funny.
Yeah, I haven't updated to Fedora 36 yet. I wonder if it's on 36. No, Rawhide. I might grab Rawhide here.
Yeah, give it a try. See what happens. The worst it can do is you just don't run it. We're gonna say your Endeavor, Carlos.
My Endeavor rolled up to kernel 6.0 yesterday, so I'm running the latest hotness.
So do you have 6.0.0? Is that what you're running?
No, I'm running 6.0.1 Zen 2. They updated it. There was an update the day after.
Yep. I'm running 6.0.0-1 default.
It's the first release they forgot some patches. And then released a second version with the patches in like 2 hours.
Yeah, mine is 6.0.1-Zen2-1-Zen.
Zen kernel, okay.
I liked the Zen kernel when I was running Garuda. It was blazing fast, but man, Garuda was broken all the time when I tried to change stuff. If I just used it, it was fine. But if I changed anything, it just was like, no, don't touch that.
The problem of a finely tuned system.
Then don't give me options because I will check the boxes. No, really, it was just like they have the options for Pipewire versus Jack and Pulse, and it doesn't play very well when you want to go back and forth, and stuff just got broken. It's there, but it doesn't like to stay where you put it. But the Zen was great as far as latency and stuff, and the way it worked with games and the audio. But then I went to Fedora because they have the maintaining of Pipewire and a couple tweaks and no latency issue.
So isn't the Zen kernel like a more of a performance kernel?
Yes.
So it's not so much used for laptops, more of a
I
desktop.
use it on my laptop.
Oh, you do?
If you're plugged into the wall, it's fine.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I only ever unplug my thing for about an hour or two anyway, so.
yeah, I run my laptop a lot on off the battery. I punish my battery, as someone once told me. So probably wouldn't suit me. Anybody else have anything they wanted to share with the class before we go to last call?
Yeah, I put a link in the chat there for a utility that I'm using called Topgrade. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one.
I have not.
It's at GitHub. It was being run by this one guy, but he gave it to the community. So the GitHub location is topgrade-rs/topgrade. It's in the chat. I put it in at 9:48. So basically it's a command line updater, it's not just for Pacman and AUR and stuff like that, but it does like everything. It'll do npm, it'll do Python, it'll do Flatpaks, it'll do snaps. You just type the one Topgrade command and it just goes through everything. And it's written in Rust.
That's cool.
That's
cool. Yeah.
So the idea is you can get any application you want just by using Topgrade.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what universal pack. Is it for universal packages only?
No, it does everything. It does I use it for going against Pacman, AUR, Flatpak. It'll actually pull in my NVim updates from GitHub. It will update all my Python stuff. It'll do Node.js. It'll do it does all the things. It updates all the things.
That's interesting.
So it so the short of it is you use Topgrade instead of using like apt or DNF. Is that how that works?
Yeah, basically. Well, in my case, since I'm running an Arch-based system, I would normally use like Peru or Yay, which does both the repos and the AUR. But I'll use that if I want to install something. So like say if I want to install Topgrade, I will say Peru-S Topgrade, and it'll install it for me. But when I see on my status bar it says, oh, you have 59 updates, I just type Topgrade and it does all the work.
One command, Topgrade, and it just upgrades everything.
It just upgrades everything.
Oh,
I tell you, it works in Arch. Okay, I haven't tried it in anything else. Your mileage may vary. I'm just putting that out there right now.
Well, it looks like it only supports Arch and NixOS. I'm guessing that's Michael watching.
Yeah.
it's on Mac. That's crazy. All right.
So Arch and Mac
And NixOS.
and NixOS.
Also, people had issues in Endeavors using Topgrade. So again, caveat: some people had, some people don't. Again, we don't recommend it. We just recommend Yay or Paru.
Either way, I think it's a really neat concept. I mean, if it works, I mean, that's super cool. Like, how awesome would that be to take care of all your upgrades for snaps, Flatpak, and so forth, like, and system packages just by invoking one command, essentially. That I think is pretty cool.
Just curious, does that use parallel downloads as well? Does it use that as an advantage?
It uses Paru and Yay as a backend, so whatever you configure in Pacman, it's a wrapper. It's
okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, so if you have Pacman set to do 10 downloads simultaneously and you have the bandwidth to support this, I mean, I do, but
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, fair enough.
That's pretty funny. Well, all right. It is about that time. We did start late, so we're going to end late. So we're going to go to our last call. Mark, so glad you're here. do you run the Atlanta Linux enthusiast group, or are you just a member of?
I'm just one of the organizers. Yeah.
One of the organizers, so you kind of run it.
Say partially.
Partially? Okay.
So the Atlanta Linux enthusiast group, you'll find it at ale.org. We have online meetings on every Sunday from U.S. Eastern Time 3 to 6 p.m. And there's no set format for that meeting. It's just bring your Linux questions and we'll help you out. And again, since COVID, we meeting online and everyone's welcome. Bring your Linux questions. Sometimes we talk about other open source projects, and we try to stay on track. Sometimes it goes off. But,
I think all nerd talks have to go off tracks from time to time.
Yeah. I'm actually, we've been talking recently. We haven't done the Jellyfin install in quite a while, so we may actually do that tomorrow. I've been preparing for it, making sure of the install instructions. So yeah, that's U.S. Eastern Time and 3 p.m. to 6.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I had a good time. The one time I was able to show up to Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group when I was actually driving a bus. I had some time and I got to hop on and have a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. So Steve, he's not here. I think he's still like working crazy hours, but he has a Linux coffee clutch every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central or 9 Eastern. You know, if you're part of the civilized world, Eastern. Destination Linux, I believe, is streaming live tomorrow. They took a week off, but they'll be back tomorrow. Linux User Space, their next show, we'll be talking about the GNU Nano history will be coming up next, and they're going to be doing Kali Linux in a future episode as well. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. I have one wonderful co-host, Wendy, and then there's Matt. And we talked about the Juno tablet that's coming out and some Linux hardware that's out there. I jest. Matt's great too, but I like to poke. If you want more stuff on me, you can go to cubiclenate.com. I do stuff, and I'm working on an NsCDE article that will probably be published within the next couple days. So next week, the distro exploration is Alpine Linux. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yas.
Bye.
Bye.
Take it
See
easy,
ya.
everybody.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a blast.
I have a theory on that.
Customizations.
Before
The theory on that for. I'll go on.
no, your theory first.
Do it.
Oh, and I turned off my camera again. Damn it! Turned it
No,
back on.
I can still see you.
No, I'm saying the follow me function is
Oh.
now. If I raise my hand, it'll turn it on and off. Anyway, so the dogs are gone nuts. Yeah. Oh, I think you're muted, Nate.
They're crazy over Alpine Linux.
Yes, I think so. Anyway, but wait a minute. Is 3? Hold on.
Not found.
Hang on. Is it up? It might need an update, but let me do it here real quick and see what's going on. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Do I need to get my guitar? Do a little intro, little interlude.
It's all
here.
right. When I distill these down, these are easy to fix.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you
So
can.
it's making us
Try that
Come
now.
on.
See.
I'll do that later.
Hang on one second. OBS crashed. All right, I think we're back to normal.
And live theme music. Who could ask for more?
Been
Well,
a minute.
We don't always get that, so that was kind of a special treat this time around.
So Nate, I was looking at the Kate and Kwrite. It's going to be in 2212. So both of them are 2208 now. So it's the commit was merged yesterday.
Okay.
So it is going to be in a future release. I don't think it's there yet.
I gotta go, guys. It was
All right.
great.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Appreciate you hanging out.
Nice meeting you, Carlos.
I'm going to.
Cool.
I'm
Okay.
going to go too.
All right.
All
See you,
right.
Colin.
I'll see you
so much.
guys.
Good
Have
luck.
a great weekend,
No worries.
everybody.
Good luck with the
Yep,
kangaroos,
later,
Colin.
guys.
See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
So yeah, it's
Dropping
going
off like flies.